If there's one thing life taught me, it's that family can be your first heartbreak. My name's Lena, I'm 31 years old, and I learned that truth the hard way, thanks to my sister Riley. Growing up, she was everyone's favorite. The golden child. The one who could never do wrong even when she did. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. The one who followed rules, studied hard, and tried to keep peace in a house that revolved around Riley's moods. My parents adored her, her charm, her confidence, her so-called free spirit. And for a long time I did too. When we were younger, I thought we'd always be close. We shared secrets, clothes, even dreams. But that bond started cracking when I realized everything I wanted, Riley somehow took first. Friends, attention, love. I was the shadow to her spotlight. When I met Evan, everything changed. For once, I felt like someone truly saw me. He was kind, patient, and genuine, the complete opposite of every manipulative person I'd grown up around. We met through work and fell for each other fast. Riley was the first person I introduced him to. She smiled that too sweet smile of hers and said, "Finally, my little sister found someone worth keeping." At the time I thought she meant it. We got married 2 years later. The wedding was small, intimate, perfect. Riley was my maid of honor. I didn't notice then how she lingered near Evan more than she should have. How she laughed too easily at his jokes. I thought I was overreacting. But after the wedding, subtle changes started happening. She'd drop by our house uninvited, claiming she missed me. She'd text Evan directly, saying it was faster than bothering me at work. Every time I confronted her, she twisted it, made me sound paranoid. My parents defended her. "That's just Riley," they'd say. "She's playful. Don't be so sensitive." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to trust her. But deep down I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in the way Evan started avoiding eye contact whenever her name came up. Then one evening, I walked into my kitchen and heard her laugh. Except it wasn't through the phone, it was coming from upstairs. And that was the night my world shattered. Because when I opened that bedroom door, I realized betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. It sometimes comes from the person you grew up loving most. I can still remember the sound that came out of me when I opened that door. It wasn't a scream, it was something deeper, rawer. The kind of noise that tears itself out of your soul before you even know what's happening. Riley and Evan froze. They were tangled in the bedsheets, their faces pale with shock. My husband, my sister. My entire world collapsed in one heartbeat. For a second, none of us moved. The room was silent except for the slow creak of the ceiling fan. Then Riley sat up, brushing her hair out of her face like she was the one caught in some inconvenience. "Lena, it's not what it looks like," she said softly. That line. That pathetic, recycled line. I wanted to laugh, to scream, to throw everything I could reach, but I just stood there, numb. Evan tried to speak, stuttering. "Please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" I asked. "How long you've been sleeping with my sister? How many times you lied to my face?" Neither of them answered. That silence said more than words ever could. I walked out, shaking, grabbed my car keys, and drove until the city lights disappeared behind me. I ended up at an old park where Riley and I used to play as kids. I sat there for hours, crying until I had no tears left. By morning, my phone was full of missed calls. Half from Evan, half from my mother. Against my better judgment, I went home to get answers. Riley was already there. Sitting at my kitchen table like nothing had happened, sipping coffee. My parents beside her. My mother's voice was cold when she said, "Lena, you need to calm down. This isn't as black and white as you think." I blinked, stunned. "You're defending her." My father sighed, avoiding my gaze. "Your sister made a mistake. Don't throw away family over one bad choice." "Mistake. That's what they called it." Riley leaned back, smug. "You don't understand, Lena. Just happened. We didn't plan it." I looked straight at her and said, "You planned everything. You always have." Then I left, this time for good. I moved out that week and filed for divorce. I thought that would be the end of it. But betrayal doesn't fade. It festers. 2 months later, Riley showed up at my door again, this time with tears in her eyes and a secret that made my stomach turn. She said she was pregnant, and the father was my ex-husband. When I opened the door and saw Riley standing there, my first instinct was to slam it shut. But the look on her face stopped me. Pale, trembling, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for hours. For the first time in a long while, she didn't look smug. She looked scared. "Lena, please," she whispered, clutching her stomach. "I need to talk to you." I didn't invite her in, but she stepped inside anyway. Some habits die hard. She sat on the couch, twisting her fingers together, her voice barely audible. "I'm pregnant," she said. For a moment, I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one. The air in the room turned heavy, my heartbeat loud in my ears. "You're lying," I said flatly. "I'm not," she insisted. "It's Evan's." I laughed, not because it was funny but because my brain refused to process anything else. "Of course it is," I muttered. "You took my husband, why not have his child too?" She started crying, wiping her tears with shaky hands. "I didn't plan this, Lena. Swear. I don't even know what to do." "You could start by leaving me alone," I snapped. But she didn't move. "Mom and Dad won't talk to me," she said softly. "They're disgusted. They've cut me off. I have nowhere else to go." I wanted to feel sorry for her, but all I could think of was every sleepless night, every lie, every time she'd smiled in my face while stabbing me in the back. "You made your bed, Riley," I said coldly. "Now lie in it." She flinched like I'd hit her. Then, in a whisper, she said, "Evan left me too. He doesn't want the baby." Something twisted in my chest. For all my hatred toward them both, hearing that hit a nerve. Evan, the man who once promised me forever, had walked away from her too. Still, I couldn't find pity, only exhaustion. "Why are you telling me this?" Yes. She looked up, desperate. "Because I need help, Lena. I have no money, no one else to turn to. Please, you're my sister." Her words felt like poison. That word, sister, had lost all meaning. I stood up and opened the door. "You stopped being my sister the day you betrayed me." She hesitated at the threshold, tears streaming down her face. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. But I didn't. Not then. Not yet. It wasn't until our parents passed away, and left me their entire $2 million estate, that I realized how far Riley would go to make me pay. It's strange how grief and greed can bring people together, and tear them apart even more. When my parents passed away, I expected sadness, regret, maybe even a little peace. What I didn't expect was the storm that followed. The will reading was short. My parents had left me everything: the house, the savings, and the $2 million inheritance they'd spent decades building. There wasn't a single mention of Riley. The lawyer's words echoed in the silence. "All assets go to Lena Matthews." For a moment I couldn't breathe. I hadn't asked for this. I didn't even want it. But it felt like validation, proof that someone had finally seen what I'd endured. Riley didn't show up that day. But 3 nights later, I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked out the window, and there she was, standing under the porch light, clutching a tattered purse and wearing the same entitled expression she'd always worn. When I opened the door, she didn't even wait for an invitation. "You got everything," she said flatly. "Mom and Dad left you all of it." "Yes," I replied. "They made their choice." Her voice cracked. "They made it because of you. You turned them against me." I wanted to scream that she had done that herself, that her lies and cruelty had dug her own grave. But I didn't. I just stared at her and said, "You did this, Riley. Not me." She started pacing, frantic. "I have nothing, Lena. No money, no job, no one. I'm begging you, help me. I don't care about the house or the cars, just a little of the inheritance to get by." I studied her face. The same sister who had taken everything from me now stood there, hollow and desperate. For a fleeting second, I almost gave in. But then I remembered every sleepless night, every tear, every time she laughed at my pain. "No," I said quietly. You made your choices. Now you live with them. She went still, her eyes cold and sharp. You'll regret this, Lena. I swear you will. I closed the door before she could say more. That was the last time I saw her in person. But last week I received a letter. No return address, no name. Just a single line written in her handwriting. Sisters never stay apart for long. I don't know what she meant. Maybe it was a threat. Maybe a warning. Or maybe it was the beginning of something worse. Because sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. And some sisters don't stay gone.